Hello, I'm John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from Central British Columbia, Canada. And for all those people watching us, they say, "Oh, we know where Canada is." And then British Columbia on the west coast, right? Right. And then Central British Columbia, that's where we are. Beautiful, beautiful province. Lots and lots of animals and forest and beautiful, beautiful place to be. Today we got a very interesting guest. Her name is Amy Dickens. Grew up in believing that adulthood had to be serious, structured, and heavy. She spent years battling social anxiety, depression, and a long list of health challenges until burnout forced her to see that what she was missing wasn't more discipline, but more joy. And I agree with that. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. So excited to be here.
So tell us about yourself, a little bit of the background, and then obviously you've had challenges along the way. Share with us those wherever you feel comfortable, and then to bring us to today. Now, the other thing to watch for our guest is that Amy is also an author. 101 Ways to Spread Joy is her book, very, very popular. Have you got it there with you?
I do, right here. If you see a lot of rainbow colors, you're in the right place.
I like it. And we'll talk about that a bit more as we go forward. She's also a podcaster. Did you cast on what is it? Joyful Jew.
Joyful You is the podcast.
Okay. So, Amy, so tell us a bit about your past.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been a goofball kid. People meet me, they're like, "Amy, you've always probably been just like so extroverted and like the golden retriever in the room kind of person." And I was always a very goofy kid, but also very shy. And by the time I got to college, something happened. And I think part of this honestly was I knew like deep in my bones. It was like the first choice I ever made of this is not my path. Like I just felt I don't think I'm supposed to go to college. I don't think this is for me. I think there's something else I'm here to do. That's just not this. And that's where I started getting really anxious. Like the shyness and like, oh, I don't feel so comfortable starts turning into deep social anxiety where I literally didn't talk to people I moved in with for a full year. Like I just hid in my room and I had horrible depression and just the health things start kind of piling in. They're kind of hand in hand, chicken and the egg, who knows, which one comes first, who knows. But I just started feeling worse and worse and worse. And by the time I was probably about 20, I was like, something's got to change. It can't be like this for the rest of my life. I'm too young for this. And I had no idea, absolutely no idea how to get out. I mean, at this point in time, this was only 12 years ago probably, but it felt like, mental health stuff wasn't really as, in the mainstream anymore. So I felt like I was really like, okay, I guess I'll just pick up some books and what is this anxiety stuff and depression and all of this? And it led me down just, every trail I could go. I'm like, let's learn everything we can about meditation and start meditating every day. And then I'd be like, now we're going to learn all about breath work and we'll become a yoga teacher and we'll do, all about like anything health. Like, what can I do with supplements and, cold plunges and like kind of just giving myself all these to-do lists of like, how can I become the healthiest, like most, best version of me? And it helped some. But at some point in that journey, I plateaued and I was like, I'm feeling better, but something, and those moments in our journey where things are working and then suddenly they're happening for us, not to us, you're like, all right, something's got to shift here. What's got to go? And I don't really know. So you just start trying stuff out, you start trying new things. And somewhere along that, I had broken up with my ex-partner. We had been together for 11 years at the point that I broken up with him. Big breakup. He's an incredible human, like amazing person. Doesn't make the breakup any easier when you're like, oh my God, you're a great person, just not my person. And after I did that, I said, I am going to do the best I can. I'm alone for the first time in my whole adult life. Who am I on my own? I don't really know. So I'm just going to follow whatever my joy felt like. What is that? And the way I defined joy in that moment was not kind of like, oh, I want to go get like a croissant from the, cafe, like the big joys, the joys that are equal parts exciting. And then another part of you goes, oh, I don't know about that. Should we do that? And because those are like the big soul deep joys that I think part of us really longs for. And most of these I had never allowed myself to do, or I'd just been so scared and just hiding in the comfort zone of my life. And all the structures that I had created kind of were just comfort zones that I was living in. And my relationship was one of them, and all of these things. And in a year's time, I completely became a new person. I just dove headfirst. I booked a one-way ticket to Hawaii, became the yoga teacher I'd wanted to be for 8 years. Amazing, loved it. It's like, I'm gonna go teach yoga around the world. So I go to like Costa Rica and Guatemala and Bali, and just like everything changed overnight. And I became this, and I was scared a lot, but I became an authentic version of myself and noticed that the door to that was joy.
And so you were still relatively young. Were you still in college then, or did you leave college?
No, by that point I was about 28 years oldish,
Right.
around there. So
Yeah.
there'd been like a decent chunk of time where I was just pretty miserable,
Right.
but figuring it out.
So joy became part of your life. And then what did you start doing after you had gone to yoga and coaching? And were you still in coaching and healing, self-discovery, and all those other things that were a challenge for you, as well as for me, actually? And I'm a little bit older than you are. I just turned 85 last Saturday on November the 1st.
Incredible.
85 years young, I call it.
You look incredible. I hope I look that good at 85. Goals.
So in any event, it took me a long time to figure out, well into my 60s actually, who am I? And going through all those challenges, lacked confidence, and then taking me back a little bit, as you already probably calculated, I was born in 1940, November the 1st, 1940, in Holland, in the northeastern part of Holland, the extreme northeast, 10, 15 minutes from the German border. Obviously, everything changed for me in a way. Just to give you the background, my mom and dad were married in 1938. They were in love, and so very quickly had a boy and a girl, and they had a beautiful half of a duplex that they were renting. And so my dad worked in lumber, and so they were the happiest people in the world. And then what happened is in Germany, Adolf Hitler, the dictator, decided that part of Poland should be part of Germany. And then it was obvious that it would not stop there, and it would involve the rest of Western Europe as well. And so my dad was called into the Dutch army in April of 1940. And the last time they saw him was just before the bombing of Rotterdam. And the Germans Hitler bombed Rotterdam because in his mind they didn't capitulate quick enough. So he wanted to give them a message. This amazing, amazing city, Rotterdam, they bombed the center of it and killed thousands of people in the process. And so for 5 years, the last time they saw him was in Rotterdam. For 5 years, he wouldn't know if it was dead or alive. So she was on her own with 2 little kids, and then pregnant with me. I was born November the 1st, 1940. So it was a tough, tough go. From there on in, indeed, the Germans moved into Western Europe and controlled Holland and other countries, and it was a tough, tough go. And the first thing that I remember at 3.5 years old was bombers overhead from the Allied forces, then already in the mid 1943, that started bombing the German infrastructure in northwestern Germany that touches on the North Sea and some of the other places. And they flew over our land, Holland, northern Holland, and as one route from England. And so I remember 3.5 years old, being outside because my mom would take us to the deck behind our house. She felt safer outside than inside. And in this distance, we see cities burning as they bombed that infrastructure. And the sound of 200, 300 bombers in the air was something that I still, even at 3.5, remember now. So the next one that I remember was, it was tough going. 1944, they had cut off all the food supply, and the hunger, year then again, where lots of young people died because of lack of food, and older people. And I remember as kids already then, so we would go, the three of us, my brother, my sister, myself, with gunny sacks, into the railroad yard that was close by, and took anything edible and burnable. And the reason that we did as kids, they wouldn't shoot us. They boot us one, but then we'd be back the following day. And so I remember that part. I can still, even now, feel the hunger. And then the winter of 1944-45 in Holland was the coldest on record. And so we had only this little part of our house heated because there was no fuel of any sort to do that. And I still remember that part. It was very hot on one side and it froze on the back. And that always kind of stayed with me. And then April the 12th, 1945, I remember being liberated by the Canadian Army as part of the Allied forces that landed in Germany, in Normandy in 1944, June 1944. And it was the United States, Canada, and the UK that landed, and at great cost made their way through to defeat the Germans. So the Americans want east and south, and the Canadians want north through France to Belgium to then Holland, the west coast of Holland, and then pushed all the way to the northern part of Holland where we lived, 10, 15 minutes from the German border, and we saw far too much that we should not have seen. And so, including blowing up a bridge right in front of our house, I still remember that part. And, and the reason that the Germans did to slow down the Canadians that were trying to push them out, they blew up all the bridges behind them, and saw again far too much that we should not have seen. And then April the 12th, 1945, we were liberated by the Canadian Army, and that part for this little young, nearly 4.5, 5-year-old, and my brother and my sister, it made such an impression on us, and me in particular, that I knew once I grew up I would go to the land of my heroes, Canada, and I did. And so the other part was that, academically I was not a success story. I failed grade 3, I failed grade 7 3 times, and then they said, what are we going to do with this guy? And they said to my parents, maybe send him to the mentally challenged school. They said, no, we're not going to do that. So maybe make him being able to, obviously he's not smart enough to be in school, some people said or thought, but I always knew that I was just as smart as the others, not smarter then, but just as smart as the others. And so at 12.5 years old, I started working in a furniture factory and to become a furniture maker. And I enjoyed it. And then when I was 24, that was the time that I made the decision to go to Canada, to the land of my heroes, to not only enjoy and become a Canadian like my heroes did that liberated us, but also to build my own lumber mill. And I wanted to start with nothing, to prove to me that I was just as smart as the others, and that went on to college, university, and all those other kind of things. And so I did, and was here already for about 32 years, was successful, had built my lumber mill and a number of other companies and all those things. And then one day I went into a store and I picked up a book, and I have it still here, the one that I picked up, Driven to Distraction. And so, and I don't know why I picked it up, here in this town in 1997. And the book, written by Dr. Hollowell, was about ADHD and dyslexia. And I said, oh my God, that's me. And I wrote in the book in Dutch, because it was suggested by some that it was a mental disorder, and while I'm building businesses and make approaches to banks to lend all kinds of money to build companies, saying that, oh, by the way, I have a mental disorder. And so they would then say, have a nice day, right? So I wrote it in Dutch. Now I finally know who I am. And the date is January 1997. And I read the book, and I looked at Google. I had never even heard about ADHD. And then, Dr. Halliwell that wrote this book, medical doctor, professor, well-known, wrote 18 books, 5 on distraction. He is ADHD, has dyslexia. And so the more I found out about it and went to Google and all the other places and became more knowledgeable about what it really is and what it means. And then, so 1997, I was already, by then, 57 years old. So I went to my doc 5 years later, when I was 62. And he was a personal friend, my doc, lived with our 2 daughters. And he said, hey, John, why are you here? I said, I think I got ADHD. And we checked it out, and I do. And so, and so the more I found out about it, as I went along the way, and I concluded in my little world, it's a superpower. It can be a superpower, and that changed my world, and that started addressing the issue of who am I and why am I different, and so and I felt then I had to share that with others, and so the longer I started working on it, I wrote a book about it actually as well, ADHD Unlocked. I don't know if you can see it here or not, but I wrote that, and so the point that I'm trying to make is that I left school at 12 and a half years old after failing grade 7 3 times. It took me till I was 62, 50 years later, that I discovered that I have ADHD and dyslexia. I was very good at numbers, even in grade 3 and grade 7. I was not very good at reading, but I was very good at writing. But obviously, it was, with all due respect to the teachers and all those people, we didn't know mental diversity issues at that point, and we are still even now in the process of discovering it more and more. We've still got a ways to go, and so it changed my life, and the question of who am I. So when I read your bio dealing with issues about battling social anxiety, depression, all of that I've gone through along the way, but I always stayed positive, so, and believing in me. And so when I came to Canada, I wanted to start with nothing. I took a suitcase, 3 books, 2 sets of clothes, very little money, couldn't speak the language, didn't know so, and didn't have a job. So I flew to Montreal, took the train across Canada, 5 days, 4 nights. Oh my God, that is a long way. So landed in Vancouver, went to the immigration office, couldn't speak English, but fortunately there was a German fellow, and I could speak a little bit of German, and I told him I wanted to build a lumber mill. He said, go to Prince George in Central British Columbia. I did. That's where this studio is that I'm now in, or, and I can still see there in the distance where the Greyhound stopped after 12 or 13 hours across the BC. It's a big, big province. It's 800 kilometers or 500 miles north of Vancouver. So I came off the bus. I had a suitcase, 3 books, 2 sets of clothes. I counted my money at least 3 times. I had $25.47.
Oh my God.
But what I did have, I had attitude. I'm always, even in the worst of times, in my own little world, I always had believed in positive. I even now avoid negative, don't even come close to me. And then passion, whatever I do, I give it 125%. And then work ethic. Even now, I work harder than anybody. I get up, even at 85, I get up at 5:30 in the morning. I always make my bed, and I always think I'm late. And I every day I enjoy every day. Every day to me is a special day, and especially in my world, I've seen the opposite, and we are so fortunate in North America in particular with all the things that we have, all the opportunity that we have, and but I always remember the years in 1940 and the challenges, and for a lot of people that respectfully don't fully appreciate it, that wars are devastating to countries and but also to individuals and young people in particular, and that will stay with you. Not the question of that war is over now, everything goes back to normal. No, that stays with you for generations. And still now, for me, the inner child is something I got counseling for when in my 50s, and then PTSD is still very much part of my life, and so going through all of that. So that gives you just a bit of my background, and so since that time, especially discovering who am I at a later age and well into my 60s, I become a writer. I'm working on my 6th book actually, and writing books is not easy. So the first one that people said to me, "Hey John, you should write a book," and I said, okay. So for 20 years I started, I stopped, and then I knew already in my 70s that 7 years ago, that if I don't do it now, then it will never happen. So I wrote this one, Against All Odds. And it's not about how successful John is, just the opposite, going through all the ups and downs. It took me 80 years to live it, 20 years to think about it, 2.5 years to write it. And then from there on I started to write the other ones. And it changed my life. But the point that I'm making is similar to you in a way that as I came to Canada and went through all the ups and downs, who am I became a question for me. It took me a long time to find it. But then once I did, it changed my life.
Oh my gosh. Have you ever thought about making your life into a movie? I was like, wow, I'm on the edge of my seat. This is unreal. Are you kidding me? Your formative years are that, and then you become this, and it is against all odds. And what an important story, because I feel like people I'm sure so many people who don't know your story would see you and they'd see he's got the nice couch and he's got the plaque on the thing, and he's probably just had he's had it easy. He's never struggled. And it's no, not at all. We all struggle, and we all need to hear how many times we've fallen and then just decided to get back up.
And that's the point, Amy. That's why you are here with me, and that's why both of us and you on your podcast that you do and talk about joy and still having a positive attitude along the way is so critically important. But it's also important, I feel, I have an obligation to share that with others, and I do that in my books. I did that in my speaking engagements that I did with young people in particular. And then obviously I found podcasting relatively recently. Started about 6-7 years ago when I started blogging here in the region, and then started closely to go work towards a form of podcasting, brought in interesting individuals from the region. And then COVID came. And then we said, oh, what are we going to do now? Because I couldn't do that anymore at a television station because it wouldn't allow anybody in, obviously, because of COVID. And so I had this apartment and say, well, let's turn it into studio. And then I had been watching television already. U.S. television is very common. The U.S. and Canada work closely together. And sometimes I watch these televisions, and you have people from all over the world, 1, 2, 3 or 4 of them all interacting together and saying, maybe what we should do is do it virtual and do podcasting. And then we started working with Podmatch, relatively new, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and started interviewing people and podcasting with people from around the world. And so today you are my podcast number 497, where I'm hosting, and then I guest probably at around another 200, 250 or so. So, and it is amazing. And then people from all over the world. Today I may have somebody from, not necessarily, I'm not sure where you are in the United States, I presume.
Yeah, I'm from Asheville, North Carolina. That's what you're asking.
Yeah, North Carolina. So the point that I was making is so there you're from North Carolina. At the same time, tomorrow we may have somebody from Australia, and then the next day we may have somebody, not only us but you the same. You may have somebody from Greece,
Right.
and it is amazing. And obviously, it allows us to interact, in particular about the things that we feel strongly about, like you do, and sharing with others the challenges that you have encountered and how you dealt with it and how you're going forward. Obviously, writing the book that you did, and maybe show it to us once more.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. Here it is. 101 Ways to Spread Joy by Amy Dickens. We got a nice little disco ball in the front.
and it's available on all the major medias.
Yes, on Amazon is where you can buy it right now.
Yes, and writing books is not easy. At least my experience. But at the same time, it can be very, very rewarding because it allows me to, as it does for you, to share with others something that we feel very, very strongly about, and
Okay.
and then you're also very active in the podcasting side.
Yeah, Joyfully You. It's, audio version of Amy's Joyland, just trying to help reconnect people to their joy and how to live a joyful life. What does that mean? Because I think sometimes people also mistake joy and happiness. And to me, happiness is from like these external circumstances. It's like, oh, I'm happy because everything's like perfect right now. But joy and peace and these things are kind of beyond that. It's the ability to choose it and to learn how to cultivate it despite what your external circumstances are, which I think are just so important in today's world where I don't know, every day I'm running into people who their inner world and their outer world, the world around us that we really don't have very much control over, is just like and they're like, what do I do? I'm like, well, we learn how to create that inner peace and that joy despite the chaos around us, that we can still choose and cultivate that. And there's no shame or guilt around like us having peace, even though there is atrocious things happening every second of every day in the world, like beyond probably what I would even want to pretend to imagine right now.
Yeah.
And it's very important, I think, for me also to practice it. It's constantly a practice to say, oh my God, not easy to feel joyful today, but let's see what I can do.
And keep enjoying it. And one of the questions is that what do adults lose when they stop being joyful or stop playing, no matter what is going on around them? And what does the world lose because of it?
Yeah, I feel like they lose their connection to their true self. I think we're having like a huge burnout like epidemic right now. And I think honestly, personally, because I experienced that, I kept like working so hard and then I burn out and I work so hard, it's like an endless cycle. And everyone's really experiencing that everywhere I go. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, how are you spending your days? And you're just having conversations with regular everyday people and recognizing that. I think also part of it is like how isolated we all are. Because I think a lot of our joy comes from interconnection and just having social connection and sense of belonging and community, which we've just undesigned from our society for a large part, which just makes it more challenging to just fit into the everyday. But when we're connected to our joy, to our play, which is different for everyone. For me, it's like very quintessentially ridiculous and I'm a goofball and I'm playing and I'm laughing the loudest in the room and I'm singing and I'm dancing. But for you, it might be something completely different. For play is just anything when time ceases to exist and you're in like the full moment of it, which could be literally the limit does not exist of what that could be or could be a new experience for you if you haven't even done yet. But when we don't do that, we lose connection, I think, to who we truly are. I think those moments of tapping into our joy, it's more than just a fleeting, this feels good. When we're really in it, it's, oh, this is who I came here to be. And this reminds me, oh, this is like the thing that I want to like shout from the rooftops and like gives you something to kind of wake up for in the morning. Cause I think we all really need that at the end of the day, because life is going to get hard. Life has all the seasons, we all go through like our winter of our life, where it's like, everything's real hard right now. And joy can be a little harder to access, but it's kind of the thing I think that can help pull us into that spring season that's waiting for us, because it's inevitable. Spring is always after winter. It is every single year. I haven't had a year yet where there hasn't been a spring after the winter.
Exactly. And so it all comes down to attitude, passion, work ethic, and then enjoy life. Have a sense of enjoyment, and stand back and don't take it all too serious. Other than in issues that you have to. If somebody feels too busy, too serious, what's the first step back to become a playful themselves and joyful themselves? How do they? So because if they watch you, and I believe me as well, is saying, how do I get back to that? Because all of a sudden, with all the things that you indicated, and social interaction has changed because of circumstances that are existing. How do they get back to the joyful playing themselves and preserving a sense of humor about it all?
Yeah, absolutely. I could tell you probably a bazillion different steps that someone can take, but I don't think that would be very useful to someone who's in that space if they don't have a why to take that step.
Exactly.
You don't have the reason behind what to do. People call it shelf help books, when it's oh, you bought the book and then it just sits on the shelf, isn't doing anything for you. Or even if you read it, you don't really do anything with it. It's just knowledge, and knowledge isn't really it's not really power unless you do something with it. If it's just sitting there taking up space in your brain, but you're not acting it out and trying it, it's not really going to change you and change your life. So I think the thing is remembering that your joy and your play is fueling your tank. It is the fuel that will keep you going in the morning and actually make you more productive. It biochemically changes your brain. It's, we're all oh, we're dopamine addicts and we need to be scrolling on our phone and, snacking all the time and all of these things. But actively practicing joy, being in those moments, is regulating all of these things. It's the dopamine, the oxytocin, the serotonin, the endorphins, all of that is just flooding in your system naturally. You're giving yourself basically a natural high. People ask me all the time, are you drunk? Are you high? And I'm I need to make a shirt that says, not drunk, just joyful. I'm literally a sober human being. I don't do any substances, I promise. It's 100% just me just tapping into the joy, baby.
So
but you can do it too.
But you said there as well earlier is that you have to find a why.
Yes, a why.
So how do you find a why? Because a lot of people have a difficulty, and I say this respectfully, obviously. If I stand back from my perspective, and every morning when I get up, I do. If somebody says to me, how are you doing? I said, I'm doing great. And then to myself, I say, I'm in paradise. I'm so fortunate as where we live, what we have, and all the opportunity alongside with it. But then there are others that are, respectfully, perpetual bitches and complainers. And and saying, look at the things that you have and the why and all of those things. I have people saying to me, oh, you're so successful, and how can I be successful? I said, the way it works is success will find you. You just have to be ready for it and recognize it. If you don't, and if everything is negative, or already you start out with negative, look at yourself and saying, you are special because there is only one of you on this earth. And we are too preoccupied, this is not right, and that's not right, and I should have this, that, and the other thing. Is say, first, reconcile that you are special. Not more than others, but you are special in who you are. There's only one of you in this earth, and that is opportunity, but you have to try to be positive. Find things that are positive. Avoid as much as you can negative.
Absolutely. Yeah, because we really are what we focus on. What we focus on grows. If you're focusing on the negative and the chaos and what's going wrong, that's where everything, and we're designed kind of for negativity. The negativity bias, we all know it's kind of wired in our brain. So, give yourself a little grace, and that it is a little challenging to be joy, joy, joy. Let's move towards what is working for me, what is positive. And when you're trying to find that why, of course, there's as many different whys on the planet as there are people. And so I can't tell you what your why is. I think that just understanding that whatever your why is kind of for living, whether you want to make the world a better place, whether you're like, I want to make the world safe for my kids or like make an incredible future for them, or I want to design something that changes, whatever community or whatever it might be. Find your why and understand that if you prioritize your joy and your play in that changes how you show up as a partner, as a father or mother, as a leader in your business, in your community, because we are priming ourselves. So that's what this whole book is about. It's spreading joy, creating ripples of joy. And because we are creating ripples every day. If you are angry and you show up at the grocery store, you're creating ripples of anger. If you yell at somebody like down the line, everyone's like, that was a bad person. If you're joyful, you're like, those people when you meet them and you go, oh, wow, I feel so much better after talking to them. Like, I don't know. It's just something about him. I can't stop smiling. I don't know. He's not even in the room anymore. And it changed my day. And try to be that person, because understanding that you can choose to become that person. And that's what a leader is. A leader is somebody who can lead themselves first. And they can lead other people. And part of being able to lead yourself isn't just making decisions and being like, oh, I'm the big boss. Look at me. It's also, can I lead myself in an energetic, emotional state? Can I take myself from like, nothing is working today to, okay, like I can feel my feelings and like be a human being, but also can I get myself in a joyful state to lead these people because they need me. They need someone to inspire them, to instill faith in them, to, help them believe in a brighter tomorrow. And remembering that it's not just like fun and games. It's not like, oh, it's joyful. It's creating the person that you want to be here every time you choose joy. It's like kind of voting for like, oh, yes, I'd like to be that kind of person and create more ripples of that in the world. Then I think that helps it be, oh, this isn't just like, I'm just going to go like play pickleball in the court because I think it's fun. It's, oh, that's something that actually fills my cup. And I'm going to like really be a better person if I'm doing things that are filling my cup.
So I find the same as you do is that, like if I go someplace, virtually always, I'm positive, and that is infectious to others because the same. Give you an example, not advertising Starbucks, but in the mornings I usually go have a coffee in the morning, and between 6 and 7 o'clock in the morning, whenever it is that I go there, and then everybody already knows me. Say, hey John, how are you doing? Hey John, and saying, because they know me that I will be positive, and I'm always happy. Not always, but most of the times I'm happy-go-lucky. So the other part, Amy, so what do you do now in terms of, give me a general idea. Are you into coaching, or what are you doing to keep busy and keep active in all the things that you do now?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. I did coaching for quite some time, and it was actually a really interesting experience because I realized it was just another should for me. I've been my whole life very good at like, I think I should do this. I'm like, I have all these, certifications, and I've been studying this stuff for 10 years. I can help people. Everyone's like, Amy, you should be a coach. You'd be a very good coach. And I did it for a while, and I was like, I don't like doing this. I don't really like doing this. So we stopped doing the coaching business, and the inner whisper inside of me right now is like, you should do more public speaking. You should speak on stages. So I'm learning how to do that. And I started emceeing different events recently. I have a book that I'm selling. I got my podcast. I also host a joy parade in the streets every week at Asheville, North Carolina here, which is soon to be going to different cities around the country, which basically a joy parade is exactly what it sounds like. We have a giant speaker that somebody will be pulling behind. I got my microphone. I'm leading people through very simple dances, basically a flash mob in the streets every week. And then, there's like a little bit of hype up, a little bit of motivation, a little bit of like silly interaction with the people who come and the strangers who are like, what is going on here? What are these people dancing through the streets? And that's been my absolute just favorite thing in the world to do lately. Just exploring what it looks like to just kind of create a mission and a platform of spreading joy in the world and learning how to do that, the messy ins and the outs of, I've never done this before. So having so much fun along the way.
Yeah, the other part then, you're a presenter and a speaker, and in public speaking, it doesn't come natural to most people or to a lot of people, but in fact, for some, they say that they fear public speaking more than they do fear death.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so for me, that was the case. But then in a long time, and until 1990, when I was already 50 years old, I was okay communicating with some people in companies, maybe 3 or 4 people together. And so, but I still had that anxiety about public speaking and likely lack of confidence. And so then what triggered my change there is somebody said to me, "Hey, John, why don't you go with me to Toastmasters?" I said, "Toastmasters? Never even heard of it." I said, "What is it all about?" He said, "About public speaking." I said, "Okay, is somebody going to ask me questions?" He said, "No, just sit there and watch it." Now, for all those people watching us, Google it if you wish. Toastmasters is all over North America, Canada, the United States, but around the world. Tens of millions of people have been involved in Toastmasters and have taken from it what they require to make them better presenters or better understanding what presentations are. And so, and for me, I went to the first meeting, and so sitting there and watching it, and then halfway through the meeting, somebody said, "Hey, John, tell us all about who are you?" And I said, "Oh my God, I'll never go back here." But I did. I stayed there for 10 years and became what they call a distinguished Toastmaster, which is the highest level in Toastmasters. And that part changed my life in terms of confidence in becoming presenter, but also allowing me to become, which I believe, an effective podcaster, as well as a writer, because basically underlying me more than anything is that, just for an analysis, I'm a good business person because I'm good at strategic looking forward as to what businesses should be and what they are. And then the other part is I'm good at numbers. I've always been good at numbers. And then I'm a good writer. And obviously the combination of that, and then the other part in terms of my books, I'm a storyteller. That's what I do. And so and then from that I became then a presenter, and I like it, and then from there, and then it put me into podcasting, and obviously that, in my opinion, is the new media. The regular television stations, CNNs, ABCs, and the same in Canada, CBC or BBC in Europe, their viewership is going down, down, down further. And other medias are taking over, in particular podcasting is the future media. And it's only even now at its very beginning, really, although there are many millions of people already connected to it, obviously, but it's still expanding globally because all the issues that you and me are talking about or interacting about exist right throughout the globe.
Yeah.
There's many, many millions of people, and that is one of the reasons that, like for you and me, you from North Carolina and me from Central British Columbia, we are interacting. We've never met before.
Right.
We will be spending about an hour interacting about very personal issues, that in our lives, and sharing it with all those people, and in some cases, millions of people are watching us. And that's amazing, amazing, and powerful.
Isn't it? It's like, there's definitely some challenging things about tech and, how much people are like addicted to it and how it's designed to be addictive and manipulative in that way. But it's really connecting us in ways that beyond what I could ever fathom. And it's definitely connected me to different like knowledge things, different ways of seeing the world that I'm sure I never, ever, ever would have even been aware existed if I didn't have the internet to be like, wait, this is really easily accessible. You can learn about this and this and this and see this way of living and this. And then you create a whole new way of life.
And can you imagine, Amy, like I'm quite a bit older than you are, but then going all the way back to when I grew up, there were no computers when I grew up.
I can't even imagine. So good.
And then in northeastern Holland, in a little town that we had about 10, 12,000 people, I still remember the first television set came in. And so we all went down there and looked, and it was snowing a lot, and we saw people and see there is somebody's walking there and walking. And it was just amazing. And obviously that took forward. And then in the early 80s, computers, late 70s, early 80s, and still understanding that. It was amazing, the initial Apple computers and Microsoft and all those kind of things, and it went all the way through. The next thing was that played a major role. Before that, with my family that's in Holland, we would send telegrams saying that in my telegram to them is saying I'm okay and everything is okay, and then I just got a new job. I'm making $2 an hour and I'm working at the lumber mill or whatever it is, and then that would be sent, and then at some point they send me back another message. So we have iPhones, and I still remember the first one. It was about that big, and it was like a shoe. And where now iPhones are like a computer, one push on a button, I talk to somebody around the world. I see them if we wish to, and then obviously the next phase, already well in the making, is AI. That will change the world as much as computers, if not more so.
Yeah.
In combination with podcasting and bringing the world together, where social interaction kind of dissipated more and more and more as it used to be, but I believe it's coming back in other forms.
Yeah. It was very interesting hearing you talk. I'm like, wow, when I'm your age, it's gonna, I think, be like the same thing for me. Of like, wow, I remember back in my day, like, you can't even fathom, like, with AI, what is it even gonna be? I have no idea, but it'll be something beyond anything I'm sure we can imagine in 50 years from now. The amount of connection, I do think that AI can be used as a tool. I mean, I'm no AI expert, but to help us actually spend more time together, to like streamline the things that are taking so much time, so that we have more time to live in our gift. And I always call it our puzzle piece. I think each of us has a personal puzzle piece, as like a soul, a human, whatever you want to call it. And that puzzle piece is our gift, our purpose. And that if we like tap into that we can really change the world if the more people that are really being honest with themselves. And I think that that's what a lot of people, because it's a struggle to tap into it. And I think that's the point that a lot of people are at right now. And I think they think that they're off track by having such a hard time and feeling disconnected. But you have to go through that uncomfortable phase of everything feels wrong. Nothing feels quite right. I don't think my job's right. I don't think to learn, that's not my puzzle piece. And I got to be really honest and brave with myself and make some choices that are not going to be very comfortable, but are going to be so worth it at the end of the day if they're true and honest with what, like, my intuition, my gut, my, whispers, whatever you want to call it. If you're honest with that, you can create an incredible life for yourself of service to the world, because I think that by you living your purpose and your gift is the greatest service that you could ever give to the world. And we each have our own thing. Some people are like, here to, do things with science and numbers. One of them, like, I'm here to lead joy parades in the streets. Very different, both equally valid. And we need those people. We need as many people doing that as we can. And I think AI, I'm like looking at what it does. I'm like, wow, it does all the things that I've always said. My brain just doesn't like doing these things. I'm like, wow, this thing can actually help me. I need to learn how to do this. I think this could probably shrink down the amount of hours I'm spending. When it's like, here, I got it in 13 seconds. How about that?
Amazing. Amy, the other part about you is that you are an inspiration in terms of that you're happy-go-lucky, you enjoy life, obviously, and you stay active every day. To you is also special. That's already obvious from watching you. And it's infectious to others. It is. And being positive. And so in a lot of cases, a bit of a rare commodity, but it makes you uniquely different. It's something that you can, hopefully it's inspiration to others. Look at the positive, look at other things that we can do, be active with others, give back to your community, give back to others, be open to others in terms of sharing with them as we do on podcasting and in books and in other ways as presenters and speakers. So,
Oh, thanks so much. That was so sweet.
so the other part, Amy, is that share with us, again, how do people contact you and get to know you better? Share it once more, your book. Tell us a little bit about it. You have it laying right next to you. Maybe show it to us once more.
Oh, here's the book.
I like the picture. The cover is always so critically important, and then the title is important. 101 Ways to Find Joy.
To spread joy, yeah.
To spread
100 ways to
joy,
spread
yes.
joy. And then there's a new cover that's coming out that's almost the same, but I needed to tweak a couple things in it. And it's your playbook to spark joy in you and everyone you meet. And basically the whole premise of this book I wrote a couple years ago. Well, I didn't write it. I experienced it a couple years ago myself. And I was in one of those little wintry moments where things felt a little hard. And it felt a little harder than normal because I was like, I'm a coach and I have all the tools. Why isn't anything working? Because, it's a little harder when you're like on the ego. You're like, I know what to do. Why isn't it working? So I gave myself a challenge. I looked in the mirror and I was like, Amy, you look rough. You don't look like yourself. We're going to wake up every day, because I know that the way you start your day dominoes throughout your day. It really creates the foundation of how your rest of your day can go. And I said, I'm going to create a challenge to do something joyful every day for 30 days, no matter how much I don't want to do it, because believe me, I did not wake up wanting to do it in the phase that I was in. And it started with just doing ridiculous things. I was like, tap into the thing that, what did you love doing as a kid? And I was like, I loved making music. So I made a music video one morning, and then a couple days in, I said, I want to write down on pieces of paper all of the things that I need to hear right now in this really hard moment, and draw little pictures. And I hid them around the grocery store and in the library in little books, and I put them under people's windshield wipers in their cars. And I sat there in my car after I did that one, and I saw this old lady come up, and she was so her posture is down, and she's not looking very happy. And I saw her kind of up the little thing off her windshield wiper and slowly open it, and she read it, and I saw her whole being light up. She just became a different person. I was like, whoa, this woman is radiant, and she's incredible. And it's just it sparked something inside of me. I was like, wow, okay, this isn't just about waking up and doing something joyful for me. This is about waking up now and doing something joyful for somebody else in my community, even if I don't know who they are or will never see it. So I started doing that. And within 30 days, basically, long story short, is for me personally in this challenge, I completely rewrote my story. I rewrote my life. I moved to a whole different state, not a whole different place to live, a new, everything. And I just completely had the bravery within me to say, okay, make the next step. You're just not enjoying this chapter you're in. You got to make the uncomfortable, brave moves to do different things. So I did all that. And then a few years go by, and I said, wait a second, I think that could help somebody else. So I wrote it into a book. And it's got, parts of my story in there. It's got some science, because sometimes people need the rational part of, oh, what's the science behind all this joy and play stuff, Amy? I don't know if my mind really wants to let me do this. So that's in there to, let that part of your mind come along for the journey as well. I have a section that breaks it down if you want to have kind of a collective communal experience around it, and you and a book club or some friends or some new friends that you don't have friends yet, sit down, and once a week I have you can play this, you do this game, you ask this question, you just journal prompt, you have an accountability buddy to say, all right, I'm going to commit to doing these joyful things this week to spread joy in my community. And then there's of course the list, which is inspiration, and you can use it either, exactly word for word what I have, or you could say, you know what? I'm going to do this thing that's not even on there because I feel excited to do it. And there's big things and little things and something in there for everyone. And it also is something to get you a little out of your comfort zone a lot of times. I mean, for me still, there's things in there I'm like, wow, whew, I'm a little bit edgy today. But it always fills my cup so much. And it really has, after years of doing this at this point, just re-sparked my hope for the world for some reason in some kind of way, because there is ripples in the world that we're just not even seeing, like the ripple impact that we make. I wrote like chalk messages on the ground one day, and then I left, and then 4 months later a dad and his 5-year-old daughter came up to me, and they, because I had written my social media on there, and they were like, we follow you on social media now, and like your message and I had no idea that anyone even saw it, and I was like, wow, 4 months had gone by, and this is just one example of all of the things, and I'm like, I don't see any of these people, and who knows the ripple that it could make out in their community and like communities that their community reaches out with. And if the more that we all do this, the more I think that we can really empower ourselves, because I think a lot of us feel overwhelmed and disempowered in today's world. And I think sometimes we are so zoomed out to all the things happening, and we really do want to make a more joyful world. And to me, what's been really helpful and empowering is zoom into my community. What can I do with my people here? Because a lot of times I don't know what to do with all of this whole world mess. I'm not like equipped, and some people are. That's not my puzzle piece. And getting honest with, okay, this is my puzzle. Like, I have my community right now. It's like where I can make a difference. And I wrote it with the intention of, if I can help one person even with this, it's worth it. And I hope it helps more than that. But that's with everything I do. I'm like, help one person, totally worth it. You never know who that one person might be and what their, network could even be. You can impact one person with, 1 million people in their network. You're like, whoa.
You are an inspiration to me and to many others, Amy, with your joyfulness. And then at the same time, for those watching us, look at your podcast, Joyfully You. So my podcast that I do are, casual conversations, and they will be, that's another part that I do. I do not edit anything in my podcast other than short blips where we all of a sudden use sound or something like that. But otherwise, our podcast, they are what they are. And then we release it within 2 hours. And that's the other part that I do, is I want to get it casual conversations. They are what they are. And then, we release it within 2 hours. And it is an inspiration to me to have individuals like you that are such an example of being joyful and an inspiration, and being candid about all the things that you have experienced and that brought you to where you are today, and are an inspiration to others, millions of people potentially that watching our podcast. So I appreciate having you on my podcast. Let's make sure we stay in touch. And Absolutely. This podcast will be released within 2 hours.
Amazing. Thank you so much. You've been such a delight and inspiration myself. It's been such a joy being here. Such a highlight of my day.
Thanks,
my week,
Amy.
my year.
It is mutual. Thanks, Amy. Let's make sure we stay in touch. Take care.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bye-bye.